Some voices entertain us, some inspire us, and then there are voices that challenge the system. This video is not about gossip. It's about courage, the kind that doesn't come from scripts or red carpets, but from real people who decided to speak up when it wasn't easy. These are not conspiracy theories. These are public statements, interviews, and protests documented in headlines and history. And whether you agree with them or not, one thing is clear. They made the world listen. In this episode of the GlobalVibe Now, we uncover the stories of 10 global celebrities who stood against powerful US policies, from war to racial injustice, surveillance to international diplomacy, and faced everything from media outrage to career consequences. This is about freedom of speech, public backlash, and the high price of saying, "I don't agree with the government." Are you ready? Let's begin. She didn't hold a press conference. She didn't yell into a mic. She posted one photo. And all hell broke loose. In January 2022, Emma Watson, the beloved star of Harry Potter and a UN Goodwill ambassador, posted a photo on Instagram. It showed a group of Palestinian protesters with the caption, "Solidarity is a verb." That was it. No speech, no essay, just one word, solidarity. But within hours, Israeli officials and global media slammed her. A UN ambassador from Israel accused her of anti-Semitism. Online debates exploded. Some called her brave, others reckless. Yet Emma never deleted the post. She never apologized. She stood still in the storm she had created. In the end, her silence said more than 1,000 words, and her quiet act became one of the loudest global statements of celebrity resistance in recent years. He didn't just play music, he turned his guitar into a weapon against war, inequality, and the powers that be. Tom Morello, lead guitarist of Rage Against the Machine, has never been afraid to speak up, and when it comes to US government policies, he's been one of the loudest voices in rock music history, from calling out US military actions abroad to protesting mass surveillance and corporate lobbying. Tom's lyrics aren't just rhymes. They're a resistance. He once said, "America is not just about freedom, it's about power." And some of that power needs to be challenged. His activism goes beyond music. He's marched with unions, spoken at political rallies, and openly criticized both Democrat and Republican leaders. But speaking truth came at a cost. Tom and his band were blacklisted by radio stations, labeled too political for mainstream stages, and even investigated by federal agencies post-9/11. Yet Morello kept playing louder, harder, unapologetic ally. Today, he remains a symbol of musical rebellion, a rock star who never sold out and never shut up. The year was 2005. Hurricane Katrina had just torn through New Orleans. Thousands were stranded, desperate, forgotten. And America was watching in silence. Until Kanye West broke it during a live televised fundraiser on NBC. Standing beside Mike Myers, Kanye ignored the script. He looked straight into the camera and said the words that would haunt headlines for years. "George Bush doesn't care about black people." The moment was raw, unedited, real. The broadcast cut away. NBC panicked, but the world had already heard it. That one unscripted sentence turned Kanye into a political firestorm. Conservatives called him dangerous, liberals were divided. And George Bush himself, years later, said it was the worst moment of my presidency. Kanye's career, it didn't end, but it changed. He became unpredictable, feared, followed. Since then, he's made more controversial moves, not all of them wise, but that 2005 moment, that was different. That was rage turned into truth. Live on camera from a man who couldn't stay silent any longer. He didn't shout. He didn't wave a flag. He just took a knee. In 2016, NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick knelt during the US national anthem before a game. Why? To protest police brutality and racial injustice in America. No slogans, no violence, just one man silently kneeling while millions stood. But that silence hit like an earthquake. Critics, including the US president, called it unpatriotic. Fans burned his jerseys, sponsors backed off, the NFL froze him out. He was never signed again. Some called him a traitor, others a hero. And while the league eventually admitted it mishandled the situation, Kaepernick remained blacklisted, but he didn't fade away. He became a global symbol of protest, of courage, of resistance through peace. Nike even launched a bold campaign around him: believe in something. Even if it means sacrificing everything, that's exactly what he did. She was America's sweetheart, an Oscar-winning actress, a fashion icon, a name everyone admired, until she boarded a plane to Vietnam. In 1972, Jane Fonda flew to North Vietnam during the height of the US-Vietnam War. She didn't go as a soldier, she went as a protester. She met with enemy officials, visited bombed villages, and even sat, controversially, on an anti-aircraft gun used against American planes. A photo of that moment spread like wildfire. And America? It turned on her overnight. She was labeled Hanoi Jane, branded a traitor, spat on in public, and boycotted for decades. But Jane never denied her stance. She apologized later for the photo, but not for opposing the war. She believed America had been lied to, and that silence was complicity. And despite the outrage, she rebuilt her career, brick by brick, and today, she's still an activist, this time fighting climate change and systemic injustice. Jane Fonda didn't just act in films. She acted in real life and paid the real price. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a movement. A poet of pain, a prophet of the streets, and a voice the system couldn't control. Tupac Shakur didn't just make hits. He made headlines. In his lyrics, he called out racial injustice, police, violence, corruption, and even accused the US government of destroying black communities. His songs were raw, powerful, and uncomfortable. Because they were real. He spoke about FBI surveillance. He called prisons modern slavery. He warned of a system that feeds off poverty, and people listened, but so did the authorities. He was arrested, followed, and labeled a threat. Tupac himself said once, "I'm not saying I'm gonna change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will." Then in 1996, he was shot. In Las Vegas, still unsolved. Still suspicious. To this day, some believe the government was involved. No proof, no closure. Just questions. But one thing is certain, even in death, Tupac's voice keeps echoing. Through generations, protests, and playlists, he wasn't just an artist. He was a warning the world couldn't ignore. He didn't use a podium, he used a microphone, and through jokes. He tore through the lies. George Carlin, one of the greatest stand-up comedians in American history, wasn't just funny. He was fearless. He mocked everything: government lies, religion, the military-industrial complex, and America's obsession with control. He famously said, "The government doesn't care about you. They care about their power, their money, and their control." Audiences laughed. Politicians didn't. His legendary routine, 7 words you can't say on television, led to a Supreme Court case on censorship. The US government actually took him to court over jokes. He was arrested multiple times, banned from TV networks, labeled dangerous for saying what many thought, but never dared to say. But Carlin never stopped. Even in his old age, he kept delivering brutal, hilarious, uncomfortable truth to packed arenas who came not just to laugh, but to wake up. George Carlin wasn't canceled. He was canonized as the voice of rebellion with a punchline. She wasn't in DC, she wasn't on a news show. She was standing on a stage in London. When she said 9 words that would change her life forever. In 2003, as America prepared to invade Iraq, Natalie Maines, lead singer of the Dixie Chicks, now just the Chicks, told a crowd, "We're ashamed the President of the United States is from Texas." And with that, the floodgates opened. Country radio stations across the US banned their music. CDs were smashed on live TV, sponsors pulled deals. They received death threats just for speaking out. The Dixie Chicks, once America's sweethearts, were now branded as traitors by their own fans. Natalie didn't apologize. In fact, she stood her ground and later said, "I'd rather have integrity than sales." Years later, they released a comeback song, "Not Ready to Make Nice," a direct response to the hate and a bold declaration that they weren't backing down. They lost popularity, but gained respect. And in time, history saw their protest as brave, not wrong. He was the greatest, not just in the ring, but in standing up for what he believed in. Muhammad Ali, the boxing legend, the poet in gloves, shocked the world when, at the peak of his career, He said no to the US government. In 1967, during the Vietnam War, Ali refused to be drafted into the military. His words, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." He cited his religious beliefs, his opposition to war, and his refusal to kill innocent people for political games. The reaction was swift and brutal. The US government stripped him of his boxing title, banned him from fighting, and sentenced him to 5 years in prison, though he remained free on appeal. He lost millions. He lost time. But he never lost his voice. Years later, when the war ended and public opinion shifted, Ali was seen not as a traitor, but a hero. He returned to the ring. He reclaimed his crown. And he became more than an athlete. He became a global symbol of dignity, conscience, and courage. Ali didn't just fight with his fists. He fought with his soul. These 10 voices weren't just celebrities. They were mirrors reflecting the truth many were too afraid to say. Some lost careers, some were hated, some are still misunderstood, but all of them dared to speak when silence was safer. And in doing so, they reminded the world, fame doesn't make you free from fear, but it gives you the platform to face it. This was the GlobalVibe now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that the headlines don't always tell you.